I would like to thank the organizers also for inviting me. I am really honored to be here today and present the results of the work we are doing. I'm actually so honored that other than Nicolas Papadopoulos, I'm the only one who wore a tie today. But I will also be discussing with a very esteemed panel the results of our survey and more about the impact of the tech sector in Cyprus. As it was discussed in the previous panel, it is a very significant sector, and our study revolved around the economic impact, the employment impact, and I will present a 10-minute presentation about a very in-depth survey, hoping to give the key messages. So to start with the big picture, let's say, of the impact of the sector in Cyprus, we have used economic models to determine the overall economic impact of the tech sector in the economy. This is defined as the direct sector impact, the information, communication, and technology sector, the ICT sector. It has a direct impact of 2.5 billion based on the official statistics. And then we also add to that 40% of the professional services, which is also deemed to be related to this technology today. So we have a direct impact of 3.3 billion, which amounts to around 13% of the total gross value added of the whole economy. And then we use a certain model called the Leontief multiplier, which is more of econometrics, and I won't go into that, to calculate the indirect impact, the spillover effect that it has in other sectors of the economy, which is another 500 million. So we estimate the total effect to around 4 billion, around 15% of the total gross value of the island. However, we do believe that this is a conservative value for a number of reasons. For example, based on the classification, certain companies such as fintech, for example, may not be entirely captured in the technology statistics. And also, we have some reservation about the appropriateness of the multiplier, given that in Cyprus specifically, and as we will see later, because of the import of human capital, there is a lot of external inflow in the economy, which may not be captured by our multiplier. But we hold this, that it is a very important sector. It counts for directly around 10% of the whole economy, and in its entirety, more than 15%. We take a step back and we show the importance of the sector at the EU level, at the EU 27 level, and we see how this sector has been growing together with the overall economies of the European Union over the last almost 30 years. We see that it went hand in hand, as the graph shows, but in fact, it grew a bit faster than the overall economies. And we also show very notably that during the crisis, for example, in the 2008-2009 economic crisis global, the ICT sector did not register as much of a decline, but also equally importantly, during the COVID, where the economies globally there was a recession, the ICT sector continued to grow, and thereafter even faster pace, reaching 828 billion based on the Eurostat facts. Another important analysis that we did is the subsectors of the ICT, which show that there is a great share of the services subsector of the ICT growing into the European Union. And we see that from 2006 to 2022, the services subsector of ICT has grown from 200 billion to 560 billion. Which shows the strategy of the EU focusing on the services of ICT. It is also true that manufacturing and telecommunications have been moving to Asian countries. So in this respect, we believe we are aligned as Cyprus in the fact that we are also promoting mainly the services subsector of ICT. Now, how do we perform in relation to the EU 27? We are at a very prominent place. We are fourth in terms of growth over the last 13 years, at a growth of 283% over this period. We rank only behind three countries, Ireland, which performed exceptionally well, mainly because of the Brexit. Malta, a much smaller economy in terms of sizes, and Romania. We see that Cyprus has outperformed the average of the EU, which was 77%, and of course, much bigger and established economies in this specific sector. In terms of our contribution to the gross value added of the whole economy, we see that, again, Cyprus outperforms the EU average. The share of ICT in the European economies is around 5%, 5.4%, while in Cyprus it's almost double that at 9%, almost 9.5%. The only economy performing better being Ireland, reaching almost 20%, but we are definitely well ahead of all other competitors, let's say, in this field. Another very important pillar of our analysis is the contribution of the ICT sector in the resilience of the Cyprus economy. And we see that in the very recent years, and especially 2019, 2020, where our overall economy contracted by 3% based on the Cyprus statistics. The ICT sector has grown by 19%, and in the subsequent years continued to grow by almost the same figure, double-digit figures. Then in 23, we didn't have a decline, don't misunderstand that. There's a slowdown in the growth, and it was reduced to around the levels of the rest of the economy. The next area that we looked in, as I mentioned at the beginning, is employment. And this statistic shows, based on the Eurostat statistics, that around 5% of the total employment force of the island works for the ICT sector, which definitely, if you compare to the 10% contribution that they have on the economy, it confirms what we all knew, that it is a very productive sector, and the production per employee is much higher than other sectors. Just mentioning also that 4.6 is also the European average. So these statistics effectively a bit reiterates my previous point. And we see here that the contribution per employee has increased from 63,000 in 2011 to 142,000 in 2023, which is much higher than the European average of 115. So again, we see that we do not only have a very productive sector, but comparatively our sector is more productive to the European peers. Another important analysis regarding the employment statistics, and this is from the Cyprus Statistical Service, it's the split of employees between Cypriot, EU and non-EU nationals. We see that in recent years the share of the Cypriot employees has decreased. Don't misunderstand the percentages. The actual number of employees has been increasing in all categories, but we see that with the inflow of many non-EU nationals in the recent years, which are now almost 1 in 3, it has helped our sector to grow. And very importantly also, a message that we have on the top of this slide is that this is not an industry that only foreign nationals come to work for. For every one foreign national, there are 2 Cypriots working in this sector. The last numerical analysis that we have is a comparison that we have with another very important sector of our economy, which is real estate. Real estate has always been a major sector of the Cyprus economy, and it has been performing quite well over the years. Back in 2011, it was much bigger than the ICT, as the blue line shows, at almost 3 billion. Then it had some decrease, and after 2015-16, it started rising again. We see, however, the ICT in the red line rising year after year, and our analysis behind all these figures show that the recent years that are highlighted in this square here, they show the effect of non-EU nationals investing in property, but also in specific areas where, like around us in Limassol, and other hubs where the ICT companies have been established, we see that the locality of the demand there is greater. And To close my presentation before inviting my fellow panelists, just some key remarks, key challenges that we have to face and have to address. First of all, we believe that with this momentum, we should further promote the Cyprus economic stability and the strength of our ICT sector to further attract more companies coming to Cyprus. The previous panel discussed most of the other challenges that we have, being our connectivity with the rest of the world, the Schengen visa, the blue card, as has been discussed. Another important element that we have to discuss is how we can attract more banks into Cyprus to facilitate more business, to increase the competition, to give more tax incentive about stock options for attracting and retaining talent, to improve our educational system, and there is another panel later on with the Minister of Education, to upskill our students, to upskill our teachers, to improve the capacity, as Valentinos mentioned earlier, of our private schools. And then last but not least, a transformation of the judicial system. Again, the previous panel touched upon it. And I think with this, on this note, we can invite my fellow panelists to discuss this issue. And in order to call them on the stage, the panel today is represented both by the public and the private sectors. From the public sector, we have Mrs. Christiana Erotokritou, a member of the Parliament of Cyprus, but also the Chairwoman of the Finance Committee. Mr. Tanousis, the CEO of Invest Cyprus. And from the private sector, we have Mrs. Grigorian, Elena from MY.GAMES, the CEO. Hello, Elena. And last but not least, Alexey Gubarev, a member of the board of TechIsland and the co-founder and board member also of Palta. Please, thank you, everyone. Thank you, fellow panelists. I will start from the Parliament, not the public sector, as I have been just corrected. Christiana, I would like you to make a first positioning, let's say, on what you have just seen in my presentation.
Well, I think the first impression is what we have all felt when we saw the excellent presentation of Christophoros. The fact that we have a sector that is growing, the trajectory is upwards. As the legislature, we certainly want to see it grow. We want to put in place all those tools that are needed for it to grow healthily, to have a viable future. And I think that it paves the way forward for the Cypriot economy based on the size of the country. I don't know if my fellow speakers agree, but we are a small country. Geographically, Cyprus is a small country, so I think that the emphasis should be obviously on technology and innovation and research. This is what the future can hold for Cyprus, and I think that we should start as we should go on as we have started.
Thank you, Christiana. And you just said that indeed we are a small nation. We may not have large manufacturing capabilities. So I will go to Invest Cyprus before going to the private sector. Marios, can you please give us also your views about the statistics, but also what strategies does Invest Cyprus look into in order to promote the sector?
Sure. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here. And I'm very glad of the analysis that you have made in the report, which clearly proves what we have been saying over the years. The tech sector, indeed, is a big success story for Cyprus because of the contribution of everybody, and mostly the tech companies themselves. We, as Invest Cyprus, have seen this great success story unfolding slightly before COVID, I would say, and it really picked up even during the COVID times. Of course, we have to understand the geopolitics that is going around and the problems that exist around the globe, which in a way kindly help the situation. Of course, we don't want conflicts. We have to be clear on that. But the most important thing is that the government previous government and this government early enough has adopted some incentives initially for tech talent to be able to work in Cyprus, especially non-EU tech talent and some other industries, which proved to be very successful and vital for the expansion of existing tech companies, but also for the influx of new ones. Then a second round of incentives having to do with tax, complementing also the individual tax, not only corporate tax and incentives for corporates, but also incentives for the individuals, for the professionals. Family reunification, fast-track procedure, the BFU, Business Facilitation Unit at the Ministry of Commerce, which works closely with Invest Cyprus, and all the stakeholders, the Deputy Ministry of Digitalization, the Research Investment Foundation, all of us work together with the different ministries, Ministry of Finance, of course, extremely important in passing all these new changes and incentives. And we, in a way, had a package at Cyprus that foreign tech companies could find it easy to set up, grow, and expand. And yes, we are at a contribution of close to 4 billion euros to the economy. A bit conservative, I would say, and it's good that you were conservative, Christophoros. We estimate that this 15% to the GDP of the country, based on our figures. And the issue here, yes, we did very well. The companies are doing well, but we need to maintain. We need to further do reforms because it's a competitive world out there. And we need to see all the challenges that were mentioned before in order to be able to help these companies, help this important cluster further grow in Cyprus.
Thank you, Marios. I will move on to Elena, and you came here after working in other environments as well, and you've been here for some time as well. So what are your impressions so far, and what do you see as the challenges that we are facing?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for presentation. It was really impressive and great. Thanks for that. And I'm, as a representative of the private IT business, can confirm that a lot of work has been done for the recent years that helps to make Cyprus an attractive destination for different IT companies all around the world. Simplification of naturalization definitely is a key issue, I believe, because the process itself becomes much more comprehensive for everyone, it's much more convenient for everyone, and it's definitely increased the migration level of the talented people all around the world to Cyprus. And as we know, grow not only tech industry here, but the economy in general. And I believe that the last changes, for example, working permit for our sponsors can be the great issue as well, because it allows us not only involve talented IT characters all around the world, but at the same time to integrate workforce of their families to the local economy. And I'd like to underline the personal income tax benefits, which is one of the best in Europe in reality, because discounts that we have at the moment for the income of our specialists is really impressive. It's 20 or 50% for 17 years. It's a great conditions. And altogether, it's generate this significant stream of IT specialists to Cyprus. Of course, there are a lot of areas that still need to be addressed to increase the level of this stream. But nevertheless, there are a lot of things that was already done.
Thank you, Elena. Alexey, you should be credited for a lot of this success that we see around us. You have been one of the initiators of all this that we see around us. So I left you last, but I think your views are very important. So how do you see our progress, and what are your key observations?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming for TechIsland Summit. You know what I like, especially like in 2017 when there was the first Reflect, and it was a little bit over 300 people, and now we see almost 5,000 people. And what does it mean? That basically we see the growth ourselves just going out of this venue and see the people work. And this is really important. And also, during this week is another 3 conferences in Cyprus, which is unbelievable. We never have something like that before. This means that industry is growing, is a demand, is that people want to meet, contribute, and grow. And what I tell, what I really like from your report, when we make a first presentation with Piotr, we estimate that 80% of the salary stay in Cyprus, and we estimate that on a really low minimum, like 65,000, is contribution of each employee to the economy. And your report show 142, which for us is really great result. And we can see that actually it's much bigger numbers, which we have in our mind when we start to do this, like 5 years ago. And I really appreciate your study because it gives exact numbers. We also believe it's a little bit higher. We support actually Invest Cyprus that we believe is over 15% of GDP. But in my view, and I think in TechIsland view as well, that it's only beginning. We really can go to 20, 25%. And why we don't put some ambitious target to be #1 by contribution of the IT sector to the European Union? What we have to do just to grow another 40%, which I believe is really achievable.
Thank you, Alexey. We can also be taking questions through Slido for those that are interested. But
Can I just
in the meantime,
point?
yes, I will.
Because I couldn't agree more with what everybody has said, but especially what Alexey has said. But until now, the growth of the sector or the governmental policies or the state policies were based on the tax incentives and the immigration regime. Those are very good. They're positive. We want to enhance them. We want to make them better, more user-friendly. But we have to go a step further than that. I think that we should enhance the state policy, even though obviously I don't speak for the state, but I think we should enhance the country's policy on boosting this sector on other grounds as well. For instance, cybersecurity. We have the DSA since a few years now, but the DSA, to me, usually I say it's like the central bank of information. It's just as important as the European Central Bank. The DSA is the same as the central bank of every country because they are the gatekeepers of security of information, which is just as important as money. So we have to upscale our cybersecurity. There was one point also that you have made in your presentation regarding the employment of Cypriot nationals vis-à-vis the foreign nationals. We want more foreign nationals to come to Cyprus. We want them to, they do add to the economy, but at the same time, we have to look as a state, as legislature and executive together, we have to look at what is the education system in Cyprus? How can we support? Do we have the key factors there that are needed to support a growing ICT sector? We need to upscale our local talent. Legal system, health, you talked about housing. Last year we were talking about build to rent. But what about health? I think health is also one of the very important things that everybody's concerned about when they are thinking about getting involved in the ICT sector in Cyprus. So it's a whole ecosystem. Oh, and don't let me forget the last point, which is something that at least I feel very strongly about. It's about time that we start talking about aligning the targets and the speed of the private and the public sector. As long as the public sector moves at a different and a slower and more complicated speed than the private sector, then we will not be able to reach the target that we want to reach.
Yes, and I fully agree with you. There's definitely a lot of goodwill by the government, by the political parties. Marios earlier mentioned that they are working alongside so many other governmental departments, but I think this might actually be a problem. I mean, why can't all be centralized into one roof and have one-stop shop for everything and simplify the procedures? Sometimes we, even as professionals, we see how complicated things may be, old-fashioned procedures. We need to digitalize things. We need to make processes and decisions-making faster.
Yeah, it's true. The ideal would be a one-stop shop for everything. That would be the ideal. We still have some work to do to reach there. But so far, the BFU at the Ministry of Commerce is doing an excellent job for companies that are basically proper to go through the BFU. We also try to work with all the ministries and the BFU. But yes, there is improvement that needs to be done in terms of speeding up licensing. Licensing is very important for projects and for the companies. And that has to do also with schools and education. We cannot afford to wait 2 years to have the license issued for a school, for example. We need to be much faster, much agile than that. On the other hand, we have to be extremely careful in the matters of tax reform. Now there is a debate and discussion about the tax reform. These incentives that have been given over the years, they need to be in a way protected and even further enhanced where they can be. Talking about the startup visa, the startup ecosystem is very important to the tech cluster. We deal with startups, we deal with medium-sized companies, we deal with large corporates, so the startup is very important. The digital nomad visa, for example, in addition to the incentives that are given to the large corporates and to the professionals working in these companies. So education, schooling, healthcare, as mentioned by Christiana, is very important. So there are still areas where we need further improvement, and it's all up to us, the government, the parliament, and thank you very much for the suggestions that the tech industry is doing. TechIsland, tech companies are coming in, giving us best practices, in their opinion, how things should be moving forward. So it's all a consensus and collegial work, private sector, the government, the association. It's very important to be all together in that, and we have proved that if we work together, we can achieve the optimum.
Yes. Alexey, Elena, we've heard about the human capital, and I think being in the services sector mainly, it is about human capital. We've heard that we need to facilitate foreign nationals to come because maybe Cypriots have not yet upskilled to the level that you can find a reasonable number of supply, let's say, within the local market. And we have also heard about our schooling system trying to upskill those. What are your biggest challenges in finding those resources? Is it the inaccessibility, let's say, to foreigners? Is it the no supply from locals?
I could start from raising the question of education. Of course, all of us suffers from the shortage of the international school on an island for the relocated professionals. And definitely we have been talking about this issue for many years already in different audiences, so I don't want just to repeat the same messages. And we all understand it's absolutely clear that it's hardly possible to resolve this issue as soon as we would like. But nevertheless, unfortunately, IT company hardly can help to resolve this issue in full. But what we definitely can do in this area, we can enrich the local curriculum with the set of the IT courses, IT specializations, and so on. And I'm sure that many IT companies have this experience in different countries. For example, in MY.GAMES, we have education as a part of our ESG strategy this year, and we are ready to collaborate with different education organizations all around the world, and in Cyprus as well, as we definitely do in different countries of our presence. Because we have 7 offices all around the world, and we do this work there. And we are ready to help to grow the IT courses here in the curriculum of the local universities and school. But unfortunately, the shortage of school hardly can be resolved by IT. We can only propose our help and waiting for the resolution.
Yes, and of course, I think Tanya later will moderate a panel on the educational system. So probably these are issues that are going to be discussed. Alexey, you also were one of the key investors, initiators in the school. Do you believe there is still room for more investment if we look at it from the investment side for schools in the island, or should this be facilitated by the government through incentives in order to make them attractive?
I just mentioned, about the education issue and everything. You know what was happening 7-8 years ago? If you're Cypriots studying IT, you cannot find a job in Cyprus because there was no market. And what we see ourselves, actually, even I'm speaking with the community of local community, a lot of Cypriots, their kids start coming back because they have opportunity to find a job in this sector. And this really important things, is like a chicken and the eggs. The people really Cypriot was looking to study IT, but they can work only in the United States or London or somewhere else. And just during the last 2 weeks, at least 3 of my friends, their kids planning to come here to find the work, which is unbelievable. And but if you speak about education, education is super important topic, and one school is not enough. And even the building the school, is a really big challenge in case of investment, because of the size of the land, how you found teachers, and it's not so, if you ask me what is better, building office building and apartment building for sale or building schools, is not to compare. Schools will not give this profitability. And this is the reason actually why we are so behind on the schools in general in the island. We don't have enough capacity in Paphos, we don't have capacity in Limassol, and Nicosia also have big issues. The French schools full for last 5 or 6 years. You cannot find even space there. What does it mean? That for the investors to the school, you really need to have a big benefits, financial benefits, to start to build this, because government cannot fix this by herself, because they need help. And also, I would like to remember that, to teach one kid in the public school for government is more expensive than actually the private school fees.
Indeed.
And this is true. And this is what means that by giving the incentive for the private schools, you actually reduce the burden on the government and do this job sometimes better. And this is what I believe we have to look we really have to look about, give extra incentives to build schools. Paphos, Limassol, Nicosia, Larnaca, we need them.
Yes.
And because now is no competition, people don't have a choice where to study their kids. They are lucky to find the space and they have to go to these schools.
Yes. I think the problem is not only Limassol, it may be more intense in Limassol, but it's all around the island. Alexey, you made a very interesting point, which is not captured by the economic or the statistics. The presence and the growth of ICT here in Cyprus is changing the mindset of our Cypriot newer generation. They no longer all want to become accountants and lawyers as it was in the past. They become more entrepreneurial, they see new opportunities, they see reality and success in some other sectors, and this is changing the mentality, diversifying our economy and giving more opportunities. We have a question from Slido, and I will read it. The tax policies mentioned are targeted towards foreigners, not Cypriots. This is creating a huge inequality and imbalances purchasing power. Thoughts? My initial thought is that in order to bring this foreign human capital, you definitely need to pay a premium. And sometimes the private sector cannot pay it all by itself. So given the benefits they bring to the economy, the government is bearing some of this, let's say, burden. But I will ask our representative from the legislative body to comment on this.
Okay, well, tax policies is a good thing. I mean, you cannot attract new investment without tax incentives. And I think we should continue on that path. Indeed, it is creating imbalances in purchasing power, but I think the solution to that would be for the increased engagement of Cypriot skilled nationals in the ICT sector. The aim should not be to minimize the tax incentives or to scrape them, but we should be able to create more Cypriot nationals, have them in a position to be able to benefit professionally from the ICT ecosystem that will be built in Cyprus. So I don't think we should choose either the one or the other. We should keep the tax incentives, obviously, but at the same time, we should prepare the human capital that we have here in Cyprus, that this is a sector that can provide a viable future. And on the point of education, if we do not align our schools, our universities with the market, we will always have a mismatch between the potential of the sector and the infrastructure and the factors that are there, that needed to be there in order to support this growing sector, if we want to support this trajectory.
Yes, I don't know if anyone else has a comment on this tax.
I think, yes, the debates now and the consultation of the tax reform, this matter was raised, but we need to keep promoting and keep helping the tech companies and other companies in other sectors be able to invest in Cyprus and grow in Cyprus. And let's also highlight the fact that some years back, we were suffering from a brain drain. People were leaving from Cyprus to work as professionals, some of them. Now we have a brain gain. And I can give you an example. We have, for example, an association in London, in the UK, called Cypriots in the City, which is all the professionals working in London, including the tech professionals. And some companies, tech companies in Cyprus, has approached us if we can do a seminar about their presence in Cyprus, about the tech companies' presence and their vacancies and their job openings to people in London to come to Cyprus. A brain gain is a very important matter for the Cyprus economy. And if we continue doing reforms and continue caring and becoming better, Cyprus is to benefit along with the companies and the whole economy.
I fully agree with you. I can see the point of the question, but I think it's a bit short-sighted to say that we are falling behind. We are here and we can ride the wave. I mean, we can take all the opportunities. Our human capital can participate in what is happening here rather than differentiate itself. I have a question, Pedro.
Yes, I have a question for Christiana. As head of financial committee, there is discussion about tax reform now, and it was mentioned. And people around about this tax reform, they always repeat word fairness. And it was previous question about that as well, that non-domicile regime is not fair, that 50% discount on employees, newcomers is not fair, that IP box regime is not fair. Let's make it more fair in this tax reform. At the same time, we see that international businesses boosted economy, and we see a real effect of that. So this tax regime is efficient. So what is your view that should the tax system be fair or be efficient? And what is your general view about the tax reform, the impending tax reform? Thank you.
Well, the debate is meant to conclude, or the discussions are meant to conclude in early fall in 2024. So the debate is still ongoing and no decisions have been made yet. But my personal view is that as of now, the tax system is fair, does give incentives, and making it unfair for one class does not automatically make it fair for the other. So I think it is a very delicate balance that we have to strike. We want to keep Cyprus at the competitive edge. We want Cyprus to be the first place in Europe that is attractive for people to do business in. We want Cyprus to be #1 as where some technological dreams might come true, but that does not mean that changes cannot come along the way, as long as these changes are discussed, they're agreed upon, all the stakeholders are present, and everybody knows exactly what the future will hold, and nobody will be in the position where they will have any unpleasant surprises along the way. So I think that if we agree on that, then I think that we can have a positive future ahead of us.
Could I add one thing?
Yes, Alexey.
You know, like around, you tell me to be unfair, but like I would like to mention a very important point which people don't realize actually, that 10 years ago, when the junior administrator came into work to the office, his salary was 850 to 900 euro. Now when this come, a junior administrator to the office, his starting salary is 1,500, 1,700 euro. And if you go across the whole industry, accounting, lawyers, and all this sector, because of the somehow cost of IT, the average salary of the all locals which we hire is going up, and grow up very much faster if its tech sector will not come. The tech sector give actually ability for Cypriots found much better conditions of work in the IT companies. They're getting much better benefits, they're paid much more. And this is what we have to have a look as well as a result of this moving of the sector. And this really positive impact, because I tell you, like in my office, my private office, over 80% of the people work for me is Cypriot. And they're really happy to work with us. They really appreciate what's going. And this is also very important to mention that IT sector helped to grow average salary on Ireland.
We saw also from the statistics the contribution per employee is much higher in the ICT sector. As I said, I mean, our, let's say, target should be to increase the sector, so to give even more opportunities to more even locals to participate. We also have some more questions, but very limited time. There is a question again about the educational system and how do we decrease a gap between two locals who know two languages as in the majority, Greek and English, and have a local education of public schools versus the expats who know 3 to 4 languages. If I may, I think there's again a panel later to discuss education. I think the main point here is that we should put an effort to upskill our own local, let's say, resources, improve the system, but it's up to each individual also to be taking their chances. Moving on, there are some other questions about the infrastructure, about public transport. It is non-existent now, and it makes it difficult to move freely and easily, including schools and jobs. And it is true that a lot of the foreigners, the expats that come to Cyprus, are used to using public transport. How big of a problem is this, Elena?
Yes, of course, compare with different locations that the offices we have, this problem still exists here in Cyprus. But frankly speaking, for us as a company and for our professionals, it's not so huge difference compared with the other areas, health, education, and so on. So for us, transport, public transport is not the key area that we believe should be invested our efforts or the efforts of the government. So yes, it exists, but the issue, I believe, at the moment, it's not so dramatic.
Unfortunately, I'm being informed that our time is up. There are some questions that we didn't manage to address specifically. I think overall we touched upon most of the subject. All people will be later here around, and I mean, you can address the questions directly to us as well. I don't know if you want to make a very short and final concluding remark. Maybe, Christiana, again, we start from you.
Well, the only remark that I can safely say is that for us, ICT is a pillar for the future of the economy here in Cyprus. But we should be doing better, we should be doing quicker, we should be doing faster. I think we should be doing it in a more productive way. And again, I cannot stress how important I think it is for the public sector and the public administration to increase the speed at thinking of things and doing things. I think that is a key that will unlock many a potential here in Cyprus.
Thank you, Elena.
Yeah, I would like to support my colleagues that A lot of things are already done, but I agree that it's going to be only the first step, and we need to do a lot of things ahead. And I'm really pleased to have the open dialogue between the government and the business, and we are ready to help, to support, and to somehow participate at this path. So, going forward.
Thank you. Alexey, what is the target for next year's event when we will be here again discussing the issues?
You know, like, Cyprus did a great effort to bring established companies to Cyprus. But I think what should be a focus for future years, we need to have more startups coming to Cyprus and do them, because this is what we are missing now. And I believe it should be really focus of the government as well, with the help of Invest Cyprus and everybody, to put a goal. We need to grow. We have ecosystem here, but we're still missing startup feeling. We need more startups.
Yes. Mario, so what is Invest Cyprus doing to create a venture capital ecosystem?
Right on with Alexey, I would agree. Actually, as of last year, we have taken initiatives together with the government, the Deputy Ministry of Digitalization, and the Research Innovation Foundation. We are bringing startups and supporting startups from all over the globe, and from India, Saudi Arabia, and others, and from the Euromed region. They are basically coming to Cyprus, and we are facilitating them to scale up, some of them in Europe. And since the ICT tech, including the startup, is a priority pillar for us and the government in Invest Cyprus, this effort will continue, and we are ready to work with TechIsland and all the cluster to join forces in what is coming up. And I think it will be great opportunities in the pipeline.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to us.